as a mom, I'm gonna say that I have to prepare my child to go out in a camp. How does he survive this thing?
Stay inside.
Not possible.
I know the kids definitely don't want to hear that today, but this is the day. If you're going to be outside, Latoya, for the kids or anyone at camp, you really have to monitor your health. If you're sensitive to the heat, I'm an asthmatic. I know I can't do strenuous activities outdoor for prolonged periods of time. This is the day to watch that sort of thing. We have a major to extreme heat risk today across much of the Commonwealth and across southern New England too. What does that exactly mean? Who should watch out for what? Well, specifically when you're in that major category, that's when heat-related health impacts are likely. Not possible, likely. So we start to see impacts to the hospital systems in. Again, kids, asthmatics, all should monitor conditions. Extreme, by the way, that's the upper echelon threat, long-duration event that could lead to death. That's right. Heat is the #1 weather-related killer. When I talk about the long-duration event, it's not just the heat during the day. It's also the heat at night, or the lack of cooling down at night, down to 73 degrees. That is a very, very warm and humid air mass, by the way, with dew points still in the upper 60s to maybe even mid-70s. Typically, the best way to cool your body down at night, it would be with the AC. But we know that we live in New England, and not a lot of folks have the benefit of the central heating and air. So sweltering summer days are ahead. Even into tomorrow, temperatures cool down just a smidge, and then they go right back up. The heat actually gets worse, and it's more prolonged next week. Speaking of getting worse, we are still tracking Beryl. It's been a week and a half, almost 2 weeks that we've been dealing with that system, and it's not done just yet. Some outer-reaching cloud coverage from this system starting to push across upstate New York. Now is this system, this is still the remnant energy of Beryl, by the way, tapping into some of the heat that sits over the northeast. There are thunderstorms that are starting to flare up at 6:49 in the morning, which will lead to more strong to severe thunderstorms across Vermont and New Hampshire and perhaps even Maine as well. Winds right now are 30 miles an hour, and I don't think we're going to see this system strengthen anymore, but it will be in a different phase. We weren't talking about, a lot of widespread severe weather with Beryl when it was across the Gulf of Mexico, other than what was contained to the core. But now, as the remnant energy taps into some of the heat and some of the humidity overhead, we will have that potential for severe weather today across some of New England. 90s for highs today across the city, but it feels like temperature near 100 degrees, and even through Metro West, Hopkinton, Foxborough, and Foxborough right around 88 to 90 degrees for high temp today. When we get clouds, it's not going to cool down too much. It's still hazy as all get out all afternoon long. It seems like the clouds break apart for the afternoon commute, and look at this strong line of thunderstorms that stays towards our north, so we do have that added benefit. And even as the thunderstorms flare up, by the way, they're not likely to cool our temperatures down too much. We're still in that very humid air mass through much of the weekend and into early next week. Where we do see the thunderstorms, we do have that chance of severe weather today. Most of that in the afternoon and evening across western Massachusetts, maybe some trying to approach central Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire and southern Vermont, but I don't think that's likely. For the greater Boston metro, just say 30, maybe 40% chance of showers at best, and most of that driven by the heat today and tomorrow too, and Friday and Saturday. You'll note that the heat really doesn't back off by too much. At the very least, our highs are in the upper 80s. We are back into the 90s for a 3 or 4 day stretch next week, and I think this may actually be a little bit worse than what we just got ourselves out of. So be mindful that the heat still remains through much of the 10-day forecast.